Hello, everybody. My name is Phoenix, and today I would like to talk to you about a killer that's very near and dear to me, the Singularity. So, the Singularity was released in June of 2023 as part of the Year 7 anniversary live stream where he was announced. He is Dead by Daylight's very first robotic killer, and he was the first massive step in implementing sci fi horror into Dead by Daylight, if you do not count Skull Merchant. Unfortunately, the Singularity was quickly written off by the community, and although players were very excited about his design, they thought he looked really cool, they thought his power was very unique, he remains to this day as a killer with a tragically low pick rate. In recent days, he is commonly regarded as one of the most difficult killers, if not the most difficult killer to master by some, and this has led many people to feeling like he's just not worth the effort to learn. He's too difficult to play, and there are easier, stronger killers to pick up and learn. Although, at the highest level of play, the Singularity can be completely terrifying and feel very, very oppressive. A common sentiment in the community is that his power is far too complex and difficult to understand, both playing as and against, which is what I aim to help people understand today by giving you a complete and thorough breakdown of his entire base kit. My goal today is to explain anything that might be confusing or overwhelming for not just people who are interested in playing the Singularity but find his power a little bit intimidating, but also to educate people who might be struggling to play against him due to how rare he is to encounter. Knowledge is power, and knowing how a killer functions is half of the battle. I would potentially like to use this power breakdown as a foundation for a guide or perhaps a series of guides if that's something that people are interested in seeing. And a quick note for my fellow Singularity mains out there, you will probably already know most of, if not all of the information that I'm going to be talking about today. This guide may or may not be for you, but hopefully I can still teach you something that you maybe did not know. I have surprised people in the past. Most of this information is going to be on the wiki page. I will link that in the description below if you would like to read through that yourself. Without any further delay, let's go ahead and get into a complete breakdown of the Singularity's power. The Singularity's power is called quantum instantiation. In simple terms, his power is the ability to shoot and place biopods around the environment. These biopods act as cameras, which can be controlled remotely by the Singularity, and they will stick to almost any surface around the maps. By default, the Singularity has 8 biopods in his arsenal. If all biopods are currently in use and he places another one down, they will work very similarly to hag traps, and they will recycle based off of the order that you placed them down. The Singularity can also remove a biopod by shooting it again with his gun arm. This will be indicated by the pink reticle when the removal of that biopod is possible. This will refund a token to his power and will prevent biopods from being recycled and removed. The Singularity can turn to face and enter the highlighted camera, which is indicated by the red arrow, during which he will crouch in place and become undetectable. During this state, he has no terror radius or red stain. When he is controlling a camera, the survivors within range of it will glow white and are marked by a green crosshair. By aiming the middle crosshair at the survivor's model, you will scan them for a brief moment. This scan has a range of 20 meters from the biopod that the Singularity is currently controlling. If you are currently controlling one camera, you can switch to a different camera by looking in its direction and pressing the Control Camera keybind. This button input can change depending on which platform you're playing on. It's a little bit different for me because I'm playing on PlayStation. The keybinds can vary between console, PC, all that. If you do this, you can also switch back to the previous camera you were just controlling by pressing the previous biopod keybind, and this will only apply to the 2 most recently used cameras. Upon exiting a camera, the biopod you were most recently controlling will be highlighted yellow for 5 seconds. This can help you orient yourself and prevent you from getting turned around on terms of where your location is. There is a 1-second wake up period when exiting a biopod and resuming control of the Singularity. One little tidbit of information is the entire scan area is it's the whole inner ring of the camera. It's not necessarily just the crosshair. Um, it's actually that full inner circle. So the actual area that you can use to scan a survivor is fairly forgiving on terms of accuracy. If the survivor breaks line of sight of the camera or runs out of range while you are trying to scan them, then the scan will be canceled. If or when the scan is complete, they are automatically tagged by a temporal slipstream, also lovingly called a meatball. The scan for applying Slipstream to a survivor is actually very quick, and it only takes 0.6 seconds to apply. This will show on the survivor's portrait, as well as the Slipstream will be physically attached to their back on their in-game model. After a successful lock-on, the camera has a short cooldown of 3.5 seconds before it can be used again, either to teleport to the Slipstream survivor or to tag someone else. This cooldown applies to all cameras globally, so switching to another active camera will not bypass this cooldown. If you have placed a biopod close to a hooked survivor and attempt to tag a teammate that is rescuing with Slipstream, teleport to a Slipstream survivor in proximity, or if you try to tag a survivor that was recently unhooked, your scan will be noticeably slower and will be reduced to just 10% of its normal scan rate, which is usually quite fast. This penalty does apply to any survivor within a 5-meter range of a hooked survivor. Also, be wary, this effect does linger on a survivor that was freshly unhooked for a few seconds before the scan can return to its normal rate. Entering a camera when you are within the same anti-camp range will yield a similar penalty for the Singularity themselves when you exit the biopod and resume control of him. Your movement speed will be slowed considerably. You will be completely incapacitated, in a sense, where you cannot perform a basic attack, place or enter a biopod, or teleport for 5 seconds. Assuming that there are no particular add-ons in play, the Slipstream does not have any particular debuff to the survivors. The only real downside is that they are slightly more visible because of the Slipstream meatball that's on their back. The Slipstream can be spread to other survivors if they are too close to each other. If you are slipstreamed and you are in range of a non-slipstream survivor, or vice versa, and a slipstreamed survivor is too close to you and you are not afflicted with it, there is a sound notification that can be heard by both the survivors and the killer if he is close enough to you. If two survivors stay within range of each other for too long, the slipstream will be passed to the one that is not inflicted. There are only 2 ways that the survivors can remove the slipstream status effect from themselves, one of which is to be hooked, which will instantly get rid of the slipstream. The other is a tool that spawns around the map called an EMP. EMPs spawn in 3D printer cases around the map. There will always be 4 crates on every map, guaranteed. At the start of the trial, all EMP crates are empty and they take 100 seconds by default to print passively. This can be sped up by the survivor interacting with the crate and manually printing it, which increases the print speed by 4 times. Once the EMP is fully printed, the box will open and the survivors can pick them up. If they are picked up, the 100-second timer will start all over again. EMP crates can be seen highlighted in white to survivors that are not slipstreamed for 32 meters. If a survivor is slipstreamed, all 4 crates are highlighted and visible to the survivor. This aura is similar to pig boxes and cannot be hidden with any sort of blindness effect. The EMP itself holds 1 single charge. The survivor must charge the EMP briefly before it is able to be used, during which they are slowed down very slightly. Once the charge is complete and the EMP is able to be used, it will be highlighted in green. The survivors will also have a visual aid on their screen to show the area of effect of the EMP. Once the EMP is used, it will remove the slipstream effect off of all survivors within the area of effect, as well as disable any biopods that are also in the area of effect for a time. This will immediately destroy the EMP, and the survivors will need to grab another one if they want to have one on hand. If you enter a biopod that has been EMP'd, you can see the timer around the reticle that tells you how long until the camera is usable again. EMP'd cameras are disabled for a duration of 45 seconds. EMP'd pods can still be seen out of, but you will not be able to scan survivors in range. An overheated pod can be replaced manually as well to reset it by the Singularity. The Slipstream, and what makes it so impactful is that the Singularity can teleport to survivors who are infected with it. This can be done either with the biopods themselves or with the gun arm that he uses to place down the cameras by aiming directly at the Slipstream survivor. The survivors will receive a very loud, jarring sound effect if you are aiming to teleport at them through a biopod specifically. However, if you aim directly at them with the gun arm, they will not receive the same sound effect. When teleporting, there is a brief wake-up period the Singularity has to go through before he returns to regular movement speed. Keep this in mind as teleporting is not always the right choice. It can actually lose you distance. After a successful teleport through either a biopod or the manual teleport, the Singularity enters the overclock state for a few seconds. The overclock state is indicated by the Singularity glowing a bright green. During overclock, the Singularity has considerable power buffs. He has a bonus 75% to breaking pallets, walls, and generators, also to vaulting windows. Think of it as a base kit brutal strength or bamboozle. Overclock by default has a duration of 4.7 seconds. However, there is a passive effect that is not stated in his power description, where you are granted an additional 1 second of overclock duration per slipstreamed survivor up to a maximum of 8.7 seconds. This rewards you for spreading pressure and slipstreaming multiple people at all times. The final and probably most important part to note about overclock is that the Singularity cannot be stunned when he is in this state. If a survivor is in chase with an overclocked Singularity and they attempt to throw a pallet down on his head, the pallet will instantly break and he will not go through the normal stun animation. Instead, he will have a short hindered period for 3 seconds and your overclock will immediately end. This effect also occurs if you teleport to a survivor that is standing still in front of a dropped pallet. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. That is a comprehensive breakdown of everything in the Singularity's base kit. There is, of course, far more information in regards to actually playing the killer and applying that information to your actual gameplay. This was simply just a very basic breakdown because there's a lot of information that's not stated in his in-game power description. And it can be very daunting for people who have never tried the Singularity and are interested, but may not want to sit down and read the entire wiki page just to understand how the character works. So I hope this reaches the right audience and that helps anybody out who might be interested. Actually getting into the gameplay aspects and putting all of that knowledge to use in a game, that is something I would also like to cover, but I think that's going to be a separate video, more like a starter guide. As I said, at least now this information is out there and there's a foundation that people can reference back to, going over the numbers or basic power descriptions, anything like that. And I also hope that this reaches the right people because I play against a lot of people who have no idea how the killer works, and I feel like if they just had the information or if they knew how the Singularity functioned, it would be a little bit better and they would not have as bad of a time. I love this killer, and I simply want to share the love that I have for him with other players who, potentially could find him really, really fun and engaging. So, I will work on a basic, a starter guide to his gameplay if that's something people are interested. I don't have anything in the works right now, but I kind of want to see how this information goes. Hopefully, it helps. I really hope it did. I hope I taught you something that you did not know already. If I did not, I'm sorry to have wasted your time. If I did, then I am overjoyed. I am so happy that I shared anything, with anybody. Um, if anybody has any questions in regards to the Singularity, I do live stream on Twitch 2 or 3 times a week. I will link my Twitch in the description below if you'd like to come by, say hello, ask questions. Always happy to talk to people, always happy to meet people, always happy to see other Singularity enthusiasts. Um, yeah, so that's basically it. If you made it this far, I appreciate you for watching and thank you for listening to me. And yeah, I will see you next time. Thank you.